In this video, we're going to help you understand hypertrophy by breaking it down into 3 separate sections. This first section, we're going to look at the 2 main types of hypertrophy, followed by the 3 main stresses that will stimulate hypertrophy, and lastly, we're going to bring this all together and explain how this knowledge can be applied to better improve your workouts. As we go along, I'll discuss some of the mistakes that I was making when I first started lifting that was hindering my progress, and it's easy to make, so hopefully you're not doing them yourselves. So let's get right into this. Now let's first look at the 2 main types of hypertrophy. For those who are new, hypertrophy is the increase or growth of muscle cells. And those 2 types are sarcoplasmic and myofibril hypertrophy. I first want to look at myofibril hypertrophy, and I promise I'll keep this quick. Here we have a muscle, and inside of that muscle, there are fascicles, which are a bundle of muscle fibers. Now inside of these muscle fibers, there's even small myofibril. And on screen here, I'll show you a simple illustration. The myofibril is the contractile component of our muscle. As we train, we can experience hypertrophy, and these will take up more space, as you can see on the image on the right. I have to say, there's some pretty impressive artistry that I've done here. These are really impressive circles. It's 2 years of using Canva. It really has paid off. But besides that, now we have sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. Now, if we look back at my images, the space around these myofibrils is the sarcoplasma. And we can experience sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is an increase in the volume of the sarcoplasm within the muscle fiber. And you can see that illustrated on the right here. All right, so that wasn't too bad. Now, what's important to remember from that is that theoretically, one of these ways of growing is actually superior depending on what our goal actually is and what we're trying to achieve. Now I'm going to touch more on that in a second once we get a little bit more context here. So let's get into part 2. The mechanisms of hypertrophy. Now there's 3 main mechanisms. 1 is mechanical tension, 2 is metabolic stress, and 3, muscle damage. Let's first touch on mechanical tension. As the muscle goes through a full range of motion, the muscle is stretched. And this is very similar to when we stretch a rubber band. And when we add a load, we increase that tension we're experiencing. The lowering or the eccentric phase of this lift actually experiences the most amount of tension, which is similar to when we use a rubber band. Now the second mechanism here is metabolic stress. This is a physiological process that occurs during exercise in response to low energy that leads to metabolite accumulation. This process also influences hormone release, hypoxia, ROS production, and cellular swelling. Now this is what a lot of people refer to when they talk about the muscle pump. Now this is primarily targeting sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which is important to know as we start looking at exercise protocols and what you're trying to train for. And the third mechanism here is going to be called muscle damage, and it's pretty simple and is exactly what it sounds like. Exercise can lead to micro tears that lead to inflammation responses. This leads to the release of various growth factors that regulate satellite cell proliferation and differentiation, a high concentration of satellite cells which have been shown to mediate muscle growth. I do get that these mechanisms of hypertrophy are a little complicated, so I did add some additional resources in the description if you want to read more on your own. But I want to jump over on how to implement these tips into better improving your training programs. One of the big mistakes I always made was primarily lifting heavy weights, always strength training. So one of my workouts might look something like this, me doing 5 sets on the bench press for anywhere between 2 to 5 reps with about 3 to 4 minutes between sets. Now this type of training primarily targets strength and limits hypertrophy. Now there's no way to completely isolate the type of training you're doing between strength training or training for size. If you're training for sarcoplasmic hypertrophy or if you're training for myofibril, there's always going to be some overlap. When I was younger, I did want to get bigger, but I never mixed in any higher rep sets or any shorter rest time periods. So I want to lay out a hypothetical. We have 3 people on screen, all have 3 different goals. There's a power lifter to the far left whose only concern is strength, so his training protocol should have lower reps with longer rest time. The type of hypertrophy he'll primarily be experiencing is myofibril, since this is the contractile component of the muscle, and this will make you stronger. In the middle here, we have a running back that plays football. So a player in this position needs strength, but size can also work to their advantage. So a healthy mix of moderate, low, and high reps makes sense. Working in types of training that have different rest times. Shorter rest times lead to higher metabolic stress, which lead to more sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. But a healthy amount of heavier weights and lower reps will also target myofibril hypertrophy. And the third person to the far right is a bodybuilder. Strength is much less important. Looking big is key, so higher reps here favor sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, which might be preferable. Although for most people, I recommend having a well-rounded workout routine so you get a little bit of benefit of everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like button if you found value. Consider subscribing. If you need more information on the best rep ranges, on what you should be doing, this video right up here is going to answer all those questions. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.